What if a strange gift let you see hidden dangers, but blinded you to the true threat? One young man discovers his unique sight is just the beginning, and what comes next is far more dangerous than he ever imagined. On a weirdly quiet morning in August, Odd Thomas wakes up and finds this sad-looking girl named Penny just standing outside his apartment. She doesn't say anything, not even a hi, and just stares at him. But Odd follows her anyway because, well, that's kind of his thing. He lives in a strange little town called Pico Mundo where the weirdos never take vacation. Odd isn't just his name, it's what he actually is. He mentions he got some kind of gift from his mom. And yeah, he keeps it secret because his dad once threw his mom into a psych ward for being too different. Penny silently leads Odd down the street like some ghostly GPS, and they stop when a guy named Harlow pulls up in a flashy convertible, probably thinking he's cool. They talk a little about how he loves his car, to which Odd responds,
"It's too bad a car can't love you back."
But then Odd grabs his keys and casually mentions that there's literally blood in Harlow's pocket, which makes Harlow totally confused. The moment Penny touches Odd's shoulder, he gets hit with a terrifying vision. Yep, the blood belongs to her. Turns out Harlow murdered Penny, took her blood like some creepy souvenir. Harlow, now panicking, runs over his car and bolts. Odd chases him all the way into someone's house where a bunch of people are chilling at a pool party. Odd tackles Harlow and throws him around like a rag doll. Harlow sees a kid upstairs and runs to take the kid as a hostage, but Odd's not having it. He grabs a lamp and cracks it over Harlow's head. They go full on Fight Club, but Odd finally ends it by smashing Harlow's head into a mirror. Cops show up just in time to see Harlow bleeding and defeated, and they drag him off while probably wondering what kind of day this is turning into. Most people in town think Odd's living up to his name. Maybe it's because he believes in the afterlife like it's totally real and normal. So when Penny shows up again, he gently tells her she's headed to a place full of peace and beauty. And even though her life ended too soon, he hopes what comes next is better. He wishes he could have saved her. Odd's learned one strange thing about the dead: they never talk. Not a word. He still doesn't know why. And then, just like that, Penny fades away. Soon after, Police Chief Wyatt Porter corners him, clearly not thrilled about the mess Odd made chasing Harlow. He asked him why he hadn't called them first, thinking maybe they could have caught the guy without turning someone's house into a wrestling ring. Odd stands his ground, saying Harlow had to be stopped before someone else ended up like Penny. Wyatt gets it, even if he doesn't say it out loud. Before leaving, he hands Odd a fake cover story to keep his psychic stuff out of the spotlight. That night, while walking home under the night sky, Odd senses something way darker. Suddenly, a faceless man appears, screaming for help. Then more faceless people show up, begging him to save them. Before he can react, they lift him up and carry him toward his apartment like some desperate rescue squad. But someone's waiting. A shadowy figure opens fire, picking them off one by one like some nightmare version of a video game. Odd gets shot too. So does the last faceless man carrying him, but somehow the guy manages to drag Odd into his bed before collapsing. The next morning, Odd wakes up in a cold sweat and realizes it didn't actually happen. It was a premonition, a warning. Trying to shake it off, he gets ready for his shift at the local diner. He keeps life as simple as possible. No fancy job, no fancy stuff, because if he ever let those things in his life, he knew he'd lose his mind in 7 different ways. While working, his girlfriend Stormy stops by for breakfast. Their relationship is sweet, weird, and a little too cute sometimes. The kind where they say things that would make anyone want to die of cringe.
Would you throw yourself off a cliff for me?
Of course I would.
Out of nowhere, a dark, slithering creature crawls into the diner. Only Odd can see it. He calls them Bodaks. He once met another guy who could see them too, and he had shown one of the Bodaks the finger. A truck driver was then possessed by the same Bodak, and it mowed him down a second later. Turns out, once these things know you can see them, they really want you dead. While the creepy shadowy Bodak slithered around the diner, Odd just stood there pretending he couldn't see it, even though the thing was practically breathing down his neck. He stayed chill because he knew how these things worked. Bodaks weren't the ones doing the killing. They just loved hovering around like groupies before something awful happened. They fed off violent chaos like bees swarming flowers. And the worst part was that they never show up for regular, everyday deaths. These things only gathered when something absolutely horrific was about to go down. A few minutes later, more Bodaks crept into the diner, drawn to a guy whose greasy hair looked like it had been dipped in expired guacamole. The Bodaks began circling him like sharks smelling blood, and the more that showed up, the more Odd got nervous. Something huge was coming, and his small town was in deep, deep trouble. While Odd watched the man from behind the diner window, his co-worker Viola walked over and said she'd had a dream. At first he wasn't paying much attention. People dreamed of weird stuff all the time. But then she said she'd seen herself lying dead on the ground, with another man right next to her. That grabbed Odd's attention. Viola joked that most people thought he was full of it, but she believed he had some kind of connection to the divine, or something spooky at least, and asked him straight up if he saw death coming for her. Odd stayed calm and asked her to describe the man from her dream. When Viola said he was wearing a red and black bowling shirt, Odd's whole body tensed up. That matched the nightmare he'd seen not long ago, the one that had almost knocked the wind out of him. Later, Odd headed into the local mall to track down the mystery man who had the Bodaks glued to him like flies to a rotting lunchbox. As he passed the ice cream shop where Stormy worked, he saw the guy again, just casually browsing a car display like he wasn't a walking disaster magnet. Then, without warning, the guy picked up 2 massive tubs of ice cream and left the mall like nothing was wrong. Odd followed, not because he cared about the man's dessert habits, but because something wasn't right. Just before the man exited, the Bodak suddenly backed off and vanished like someone had flipped a switch. Odd found it super strange. Those things didn't leave their target alone until the carnage was done, and this wasn't normal. The man reached his house, dropped off the ice cream, and left again right after. No rest, no TV, not even a spoonful of rocky road. Odd stayed close behind, more confused and suspicious than ever. Odd broke into the guy's house because obviously Bodaks don't stalk people just for fun. The place smelled like old smoke and paranoia. On the ashtray he spotted cigarette butts from all kinds of brands. That told him this guy had friends, probably the kind your mom hopes you never meet. Then a blast of icy wind blew through the room. Suddenly, a gust of cold wind sweeps across the house, and Odd sees spirits being pulled into a door. He followed it and spotted a strange light shining from a hole in the wall. Curious but cautious, he reached toward it, but yanked his hand back fast when black sludge began oozing out, spreading like it had a mind of its own. The hole twisted into a swirling vortex that tried to suck Odd inside. He didn't wait to become a human smoothie. He bolted and dove into hiding. Seconds later, a swarm of Bodaks burst into the room, filling the house like a plague with wings. One of them drifted way too close to where Odd hid. He froze. Thankfully, it moved on once it saw the others were gone. Right then, Stormy called him. Odd answered while creeping back through the house. With the Bodaks gone, he kept digging and found a bunch of files on famous serial killers. Smack in the middle was one labeled Robert Robertson, aka the moldy-haired guy. Stormy immediately dubbed him Fungus Bob. Not wrong. Then Odd heard someone at the door. Someone was calling out for Bob. He told Stormy he had to go, but before leaving, he noticed Bob's calendar was missing a page. August 15. Odd found it tucked inside the killer files with Bob's name written on it. That's when everything clicked. Something awful was planned for tomorrow. He slipped out through the window just as the stranger walked into the house. 2 angry Rottweilers suddenly charge at Odd, not looking to get chewed up. He climbs onto the roof and waits it out until the man finally goes back inside. Later that day, Odd headed over to Wyatt's house, where he was having a backyard barbecue. In between cooking, he warns him about Bob. While everyone's hanging out, a cop named Bern Eccles shows up with his dateless set. Wyatt asks Bern to dig into Bob's DMV records. Soon after, Wyatt comes back with an update. Turns out Bob moved into town 5 months ago, right after getting a chunk of money from his dead mom. His record's spotless. No red flags, no crimes, nothing they can pin on him. And yeah, he's creepy, but if acting weird was illegal, Wyatt jokes Odd would already be in jail. Still, Wyatt trusts him and puts someone on Bob's tail, just in case. Later, Odd and Stormy sneak off for a picnic at the top of a church. As Stormy starts unpacking the food, Odd freezes. Bob's walking straight toward the church. Odd runs outside to stop him, but Bob's already too close. So they rush back in and hide in the sacristy. Inside the room, there's another door. Odd can almost feel Bob standing right behind it, so he tells Stormy to stay put while he checks the hallway. Then Bob starts pounding on the sacristy door like a maniac. They don't wait around, they run. Bob doesn't follow. Instead, he wrecks the room in a tantrum. The couple immediately calls Wyatt, who, very awkwardly, answers while he's literally on top of his wife. It was badly timed, but the crisis came first. Later, back at the diner, Oz gives Odd a little heart-shaped metal trinket he asked for. Odd had this weird vision of a bullet tearing through a heart, and he wanted something to prevent it from happening or to maybe change what was coming. That night, Wyatt calls and confirms that the church is trashed. Bob left 0 fingerprints, almost like he was never there. Odd and Stormy follow a psychic trail that weirdly leads them to a bowling alley. Odd's confused. Stormy asks if it connects to his dream. At first, Odd says no, the uniforms don't match what he saw. But when they get inside, they find out the staff recently switched from green and gold shirts to black and red. And just like that, everything came into place. Odd immediately calls Wyatt and tells him to get someone to guard the place. If Bob's planning something, this bowling alley might be the location. Just as Odd and Stormy step outside, Officer Varner walks up asking why they think Bob is dangerous. Since Odd can't exactly say he's psychic, he lies and says Bob got aggressive earlier. Varner doesn't seem convinced. Stormy backs him up, saying Bob hit on her. She notices a tattoo on Varner's arm that says POD. He brushes it off and says it's a police thing, nothing she needs to know. After that, Odd and Stormy visit Viola to ask more about her nightmare. Viola remembers flashing lights, creepy music, a loud crowd, then the sound of rushing water. She felt like she was being hit and slipping in blood. She shakes as she describes all the bodies around her. When she asks if it can be changed, Odd says fate's not a straight path, but sometimes, even with choices, we end up right back where we started. Odd checks on Viola's daughters and spots several Bodaks hovering over them. He hides his shock and just tells Viola to leave the house quietly without telling anyone where she's going. Stormy worries about Odd and says she's scared he's going to get hurt. He doesn't say much, just reassures her. That's when they suddenly hear screaming. A woman is being chased by two Rottweilers. It's Lisette. Just as one dog jumps, two gunshots echo across the yard. Odd and Stormy rush over and find a crying man with a gun. He says he shot the dogs. The cops arrive and find out Lisette had been tied up and tossed out for the dogs. She somehow escaped from that but didn't survive. Wyatt says the shooter is a teacher named Kevin Goss and he was just trying to help Lisette. Odd tells him those dogs belong to Bob. Wyatt orders his men to find Bob. Varner complains that he already followed Bob and saw nothing weird, but Wyatt doesn't care. He says to do it again because Odd's never wrong. Before leaving, Odd hands Wyatt the heart-shaped trinket he asked Oz to make. He tells him to wear it no matter what. When Odd gets home, something feels wrong. There's a gun on the floor and the bathroom light is still on. He steps inside and finds Bob's dead body lying in the bathtub. Odd knows right away someone's setting him up. Instead of calling the cops and getting blamed, he handles it himself. After checking the body, he figures Bob has been dead for a while. That means the Bob he saw earlier at the church was already a ghost. Maybe Bob thinks Odd had something to do with his death, but Odd still doesn't know the full story. He wraps the body up, borrows his neighbor's car, and drives it to an abandoned prison. He hides the body inside an old gas chamber. On the way back, he sees a flood of Bodaks drifting through the streets, dark and silent like shadows hunting something. He swings by Wyatt's house. Inside, Wyatt is just about to have some pie with his wife Carla. He hears the doorbell and goes to open it. The moment he does, he gets shot 3 times. Odd arrives soon after and finds out Wyatt has been taken to the hospital. Carla tells him the trinket he gave Wyatt saved his life, though one bullet still made it through. Wanting to know more, Odd heads back to Bob's house. On Bob's computer, he finds searches about making bombs, devil worship, and used moving vans. In the fridge, he finds something even worse, severed fingers and teeth. Then Bob's ghost shows up again. It tries to punch him, but ghosts can't touch the living. Bob gets smart and starts throwing furniture instead. A stove crashes toward Odd and cracks the gas line. Smelling the leak, Odd doesn't wait. He dives through the window just as the house explodes behind him. That's when everything clicks. The vision of a bullet through the heart wasn't about Wyatt, it was Bob. Odd rushes back to the prison and checks the body. Right there on Bob's chest is a tattoo engraved with POD. He finally pieces it together. Bob and Varner were partners. POD doesn't stand for anything good, it means Prince of Darkness. Varner isn't just a cop, he's a devil worshipper. He killed Bob, tried to frame Odd, and now he's the one behind a huge mass murder that's about to happen. Odd finally realizes where Varner plans to attack. It's the mall. Without wasting a second, he heads straight there, snatching up a baseball bat on the way. He knows what's coming. He just doesn't know how bad it'll get. He rushes into the security surveillance room, but it's already too late. The staff are dead, their bodies slumped where they fell. Before he can process it, a man in a ski mask steps out of the shadows. Odd doesn't hesitate. He slams the bat into his head and the man drops. When Odd pulls off the mask, he sees Eccles underneath. It all makes sense now. Eccles is also part of it. He helped Bob and Varner with the whole plan. They even used Bob's dogs to kill Lisette just because she spotted their photos of the mall covered in notes. Odd notices that Eccles is still wearing his uniform beneath his bulletproof vest. That tells him everything. After the shooting, they plan to rip off the vests and pretend they were just mall guards trying to save lives, like fake heroes in a nightmare. Then something clicks in Odd's head. The Bodaks weren't swarming Eccles and Varner. They were avoiding them. Why? Because the Bodaks knew Odd could see them. They were hiding the danger right in front of him. Odd grabs Eccles' gun, but it only has 4 bullets left. It's not much, but it's enough if he stays sharp. As he searches the mall, he spots Viola and her 2 daughters, along with workers from the bowling alley. He rushes over and tells them to get out now with no time to explain, and tells them just to run. That's when he understands Viola's dream. The children's music she kept hearing came from the carousel, and the crowd noise. It was just the TV blasting a sports game. Her dream was warning her all along. But then, the Bodaks return, and this time it's not just a few. It's a swarm pouring in like smoke through a crack in reality. A woman starts yelling when she spots someone holding a gun. Chaos erupts. People try to escape, but the entire mall goes into lockdown. The automatic security system slams every door shut. Now no one can get out. Then gunshots echo. A shooter opens fire right outside the ice cream shop. Odd charges straight at him, firing 3 times as he runs, but he keeps missing. The Bodaks rush in and wrap around him like shadows come to life, trying to block his view, trying to stop him from saving anyone. Odd pushes through them. He fights every step. The gunman starts reloading. Odd gets close enough, aims and pulls the trigger one last time. The bullet hits the gunman in the head and drops him cold. Odd moves slowly toward the ice cream shop, terrified of what he might find. His heart's pounding because he thinks Stormy's been shot, but then she rises up from behind the counter, and for a moment, everything inside him calms down. That peace doesn't last, because right then, he sees Lisette's ghost, which means it's not over. When Odd rips off the shooter's mask, he realizes it's the teacher who killed Bob's dogs, but Varner is still out there. Lisette guides Odd to the parking lot. She floats ahead like she's been waiting to show him something. There, he finds a white moving van parked like a silent threat. The back doors are locked tight, so he asks a nearby man to help him break it open. Inside, they find it, tons of explosives rigged to blow, and the timer's already counting down. Just under 3 minutes left. As Odd tries to act fast, Varner shows up. A bodak slips into his body and warns him that Odd is near. Varner doesn't waste time. He shoots Odd and the bullet hits him, but somehow Odd pushes through the pain, jumps into the van, and starts it up. As the van speeds away from the mall, Varner clings to it like a demon who won't let go. He fires again. This time the bullet slices Odd's forehead, but doesn't stop him. Then Varner climbs into the van and Odd knows it's now or never. He throws himself out just before the van crashes into a ditch. Seconds later, it explodes, causing only minimal destruction. When Odd wakes up, he's in the hospital. Stormy is there beside him and takes care of him. Wyatt's wife tells him that Wyatt made it out alive and even made up a story to protect Odd's secret about seeing the dead. Odd learns the truth about Eccles and Varner. They started as teenage cult freaks, worshipping dark things and covering up their crimes. Later, they joined the police not to protect anyone but to hide better. Then they met Bob and Goss, and together they built a plan to poison a whole town from the inside out. Odd saved them all. People start calling him a hero because he stopped something truly horrifying. When he leaves the hospital, he moves into Stormy's place and tries to forget it all. No ghosts, no shadows or any bodaks, just spending quality time with Stormy and everything felt like peace. For a little while, it worked. They spend a few quiet, perfect days together. But then Wyatt, Carla, and Viola show up at the door. Carla says the coroner finally released Stormy's body, and everything falls apart. Odd realizes the truth he's been hiding from himself. Stormy's been dead this whole time. He knew it deep down, the moment he saw her behind the counter at the ice cream shop. But his heart couldn't take it. Wyatt gently tells him it's time to let go, time to set her free. So Odd holds Stormy close one last time and promises they'll meet again. Then she walks to the window, steps into the light and disappears. Later, Odd heads to Las Vegas. He doesn't know what's next, but he knows he'll use his gift to help others, and he'll wait for the day he sees Stormy again.